What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Daniel Williams, if y'all hadn't ever been here before. And this is the Cedar Ridge Chronicles. I'd welcome y'all to check out some of my other content if y'all are looking at how to do some taxidermy work, or if you just like the outdoors in general. I do some hunting and fishing, stuff like that on here too. We've been really busy down here in the shop the last couple of months. Deer season's wide open down here. Our rut is peaked out right now. Got a lot of deer being brought in this last week. And today it was kind of like Christmas. Just got in this big order right here from McKenzie. And I've got another order about the same size coming from Ben Mears Taxidermy. It should be here shortly. I finished up the last of my deer from last year, except for my brother's buck. He's got a big old massive 8-point up here. Y'all check this out. Any of y'all familiar with Alabama? This is a Dothan, Alabama deer. 134 inches worth of 8-point. You usually don't see that far south, at least in our state. That's big for around here. I know some of y'all's northern guys are going, man, that's a little baby. But anyhow, thought I'd do a video today. I've got a buck that kind of just exploded his rack. Y'all check this out. And that right there is all we got to work with. What this thing did, the hunter shot the deer and he came running up a mountain. And when he went up the mountain, he got about halfway up and jumped and went straight backwards and landed upside down on his rack. And when it hit, that rack flexed, and then the middle part of that rack just exploded. He found a tine and he found the end of the main beam, but there's a middle section that's completely missing. We're going to have to rebuild that. I put some wire in it. We're going to have to rebuild it with epoxy and stuff. I thought I'd film it and just kind of let y'all see how that was done. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the plastic wrap on this. I've been bleaching out this skull for a European mount, so I'm just going to leave that on there so it doesn't get dirty or anything. But y'all can see how unique the color is of this antler. He was just out of velvet. Y'all can see on the back, it's still got the white bone color from when he come out of velvet. It's still got a little bit of velvet attached to it. Even on this side over here, you can see where the velvet's still on there in places. Still got that bone color. Just a really cool looking deer, but it's still got a little bit of pink in it. From the blood where the velvet come off of it, you can see that little bit of a pink color. It's going to be kind of interesting trying to match that color. A little bit different than any I've done before, but I think we can figure it out. I'm going to be using epoxy sculpt. Going to be using Gorilla Glue Gel, super glue gel. I've got a drill bit, which is a 1/8 inch drill bit. And this wire right here, what that is tensioning wire like you'd use on a barbed wire fence. It comes in big rolls. You can get it at a lot of hardware stores, supply stores, farm supply stores and stuff. And that wire is fairly high, but you get tons of it. I mean, it comes in a giant roll. And even if you can find somebody that'll give you several yards of it, probably lasts you just about forever. But I just take it, some of these bolt cutters, cut off what I need. And that right there works great for holding everything sort of in place while you're doing your epoxy work. It's not gonna hold a whole bunch of weight or anything like that, but it will hold that epoxy in place long enough for it to dry. Sometimes I'll use something to brace up the antlers or whatever, especially if you're having to do a lot of epoxy work. You may even have to go in and do a little bit at a time, let that dry and cure just a little bit so that it firms up enough to finish it out. But what we're going to be doing today, I think I'm going to be able to do the tine first. We'll probably attach the tine to the end of that main beam, get that rebuilt, and then probably let it dry, maybe even overnight, let it go ahead and cure on out, and then drill into the main beam and attach that whole end, because it's going to take a lot of epoxy right there. There's no bone that's even touching from the main beam to the tip of the main beam. We've got to rebuild that whole section. Let me get my camera mounted up on my chest and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, let me show you what we got to work with here. This is the end of the main beam. It's going to come out kind of like that right there. And y'all can see, I mean, there's no bone. I mean, it might have touched just a little bit right there, but it's not matching up. It's supposed to be right in there somewhere, according to the lines in the bottom of it anyway. It's going to be right in there. So we're gonna have to attach that. Then this tine is gonna go right up in here, right around in there somewhere. And y'all can see all that's missing too. And there's nowhere where it's gonna just sit on top of bone because all of that chipped and flew out. And he was not able to find the rest of those pieces of bone, which, you know, there again, once it flexed, when that flexed in and that part blew off, I mean, there's no telling how far that flew off in the woods. So this is what we got to work with. What I'm going to try to do, we've got this piece of wire right here bent. And once we get the angle that we need on this, we're going to try to get this wire put in through both sides of this main beam. I'm going to cut some of the ends of this off. It's not going to be this long. But really what you're going to try to do is get this angle the same as this angle needs to be. Get that curve where it matches up. That's going to be fairly close right there. But you can bend that once we get it mounted. We'll bend it and make it fit. This right here I'm going to put in the beam here and the tine here. And we'll bend that up to fit right in there if y'all can see that. So we're going to do this first. I'm going to have to keep this slightly off center on one side of this main beam so that we'll have room for the other wire to reattach to the other side of the main beam. It's going to be a little tricky, but I think we can make it work. When y'all are drilling this, you don't have to be really precise as to what direction that you put this in, because this will bend. So while y'all are watching this, in case y'all are wondering how I'm getting all my angles right, I'm really not. But once I get these holes drilled in approximately the right place, you just have to make sure that these two holes line up. As long as this hole lines up with this hole, especially if the bone goes together, you got to make sure it lines up obviously to have these, you know, the side flush. But all of this can be bent and altered, so you can make that work with the hole that you drill. You just want to make sure that you stay in line with that antler so you don't drill out the side of the antler, but that too could be fixed, I guess, if you had to. It is very, very close. And that is even closer. Okay, that right there needs to sit right there. So it's going to work out just perfect. Then we'll just have to fix that. It'll be interesting. Wish I could remember who it was. Somebody commented a while back on one of my videos recommending that I use this glue to glue this wire in before I started my epoxy work to help hold everything in place. So that's what we're going to do this time. Although on this one, I don't know that it's going to work real well because I've got so much surface area of bone missing that's got to be replaced. There's not a whole lot to really hold it together. But we're going to try it anyway. I'll try anything once. Now I do have reference photos of this. I asked the hunter if he had pictures of them, and sure enough he had pictures of them on a game camera. So we're going to be able to use those pictures to line all of this up once we get it all put together. All right, but while we're waiting on that glue to dry, just want to tell y'all thank y'all for the subscriptions. We're just about to hit 5,000 subscribers, guys. At 4,700 right now during the making of this video, and that's just incredible. A little over a year's time, I'm very happy with that, and wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for y'all and all y'all's support. Something else, I just wanted to say something about the comments. Now, a lot of y'all have found my taxidermy page and my Cedar Ridge Chronicles Facebook page, which I don't post to a whole lot, but when y'all are sending me comments, I don't mind answering as many as I can possibly get to, but I get a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and I try to keep up with as many as I can to try to help y'all out when I can. But a couple suggestions that I do have, unless it's a picture of something that y'all are sending me, don't mind getting pictures private messaged, you know, on my taxidermy page or on my Cedar Ridge Chronicles page. But if you've got a question about taxidermy, unless it's something that you're just straight up embarrassed about, I would highly recommend putting that on the comments on the video that you're watching. Even if you have to find a video and comment, a couple of reasons being, number one, it will let everybody see that question. And I'll try to answer it the best that I can, but more times than not, I've already got a video explaining maybe what you're looking for, and I can put a link to that video on that comment. So if anybody else is looking for the same stuff, they'll see the comment and be able to find the answer right there, rather than me getting 10 different private messages asking the same question. Also, my channel is monetized on YouTube, so it's part of my income. And every time that you comment on a video, it throws it back into that algorithm, and YouTube will throw that video back out there and recommend it to more viewers. The more views I get, the more that I get paid. So I don't want to sit here and beg for views or anything, but if you're going to comment anyway, it really helps me out if you just go ahead and comment on one of my videos, because that will benefit me through YouTube, and the other viewers can see the comment and see the answers. And there's a lot of taxidermists that watch this too. So a lot of times there may be taxidermists that see your comment or question, and they may be able to answer it when I can't. It also gives you several different options. There's a lot of people that watch this channel that don't do things the way that I do, and many taxidermists are that way. So a lot of times you may get multiple answers, and you can pick the one that suits you the best, that you feel the most comfortable using in your shop, or if you're just doing one deer that you want to try to mount for yourself. The more subscribers that I've got, the more YouTube's going to promote my channel, and it's going to go to more and more viewers, and that really helps me out, guys. So like I said, if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button. It's just like liking somebody on Facebook. It's all it is. It's not going to change anything. It's not, you're not going to have to pay for it. nothing like that. It's just gonna benefit me. It's just really gonna help me out. But guys, again, I really appreciate the support. I mean, it has really been incredible. It's given me more and more reason to even do this. So let's get back to these antlers. This glue should be just about set by now. Well, it's not moving. Actually worked pretty good. Sure, if I beat on it a second, it'd probably break loose, but if that'll hold that in place just long enough for me to get some epoxy in there, that would be fantastic. I think I'm gonna go with my original plan and just go ahead and rebuild this side, fix this tine, and we're gonna let this cure and then come back and drill it to put the main beam back together. I always use my modeling tool to get this epoxy out of those containers. It's a little bit easier than trying to dig it out of there with your finger, especially if it's a little bit cold. But make sure that you use different ends of it so that you don't mix part A with part B inside the container. You come back and just have some hard spots in your epoxy, and that ain't no good. Okay, gonna smash this up into that gap. Then lay that on the back side of that broken antler. Grab me just a little bit of water. You wet that right there, it kind of thins it down just a little bit. You can smooth it out. It keeps it from sticking all over your fingers too. But man, you can smooth those edges right down to just nothing. They'll taper down so smooth. I love this stuff. If y'all hadn't ever noticed watching my channel, I use it for just about everything. Last year, me and my buddy had gone hunting, and I'd set my backpack down in the driveway, about to go in my house after he dropped me off at the house. And we decided to drive down here to my shop for just a second, look at something. I forgot I'd set my backpack down, and he ran completely over it with a truck and broke my camera arm that I use on the tree. But hey, wouldn't you know it, I went and got my epoxy sculpt, rebuilt the little piece on the camera arm that holds my camera, and I'm still using it now. But I think you can fix just about anything with it. And try to get this as smooth as you can before you stop working with it. This can be sanded really easily, but it can be smoothed even easier. I mean, you can almost get it smooth enough where it doesn't have to be sanded while you've still got it wet. It just makes it a little bit less time consuming if you can do this first. All right, let's see where we're at. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Oh yeah. Almost there. All right. Well, epoxy's not quite cured yet. It's just dry enough to where you can put little dents in it with your fingernail. So what I'm going to do is take this tucking tool. It's got the curved end on it. Just get a little water on it. And I'm going to follow some of these grooves coming down this antler and up this main beam and just kind of finish them out in this epoxy. They just kind of fade into that antler. Just follow the contour. Just like that, if y'all can see on camera what I'm doing. Just kind of make a little groove in it and use that water to smooth it out a little bit. As y'all can see, that that antler's got a lot of texture. And this epoxy is going to be perfectly smooth, so you want to make sure that you add this detail in here before it dries. You're not going to be able to do it later unless you use some sandpaper or something like that. And it just doesn't look as smooth once it's done that way. Just like that. I'm going to do a whole lot more on the back side of this because we're going to have to add epoxy onto that anyway. And we'll just continue these lines on down into that new epoxy once we get that finished up on there. There we go. Now, gonna let that cure. We'll come back to that as soon as it's ready to go. All right, now this is set overnight. It's good and cured. That looks really good right there. I like how it turned out. Now we're gonna see if we can figure out how to get this where it's at the right angle here to put this together. You have to remember, you can't drill in a curve. You got to drill in a straight line. So at some point, this is going to have to stay straight. Your curve has to be just right there. And then you got to drill straight to make it fit onto this antler. The trick is to figure out exactly where that hole needs to be. It's going to be about like that. So we've got to go in right here. Try to get that straight right up into that antler. A little bit further than that. a little bit of that off. Right there. That right there is going to be real close. All right, time to move on to the epoxy work on the main beam. I've glued my wire in to the end of the beam, but I didn't put any glue in this inside part of the beam right here because this is going to have to be moved so much and bent and altered. I'm going to end up breaking that glue loose anyway, I believe, once I go to try and epoxy this in. So what we're going to do, we're going to mix up some epoxy and see if we can get this thing kind of in position, and then I'll brace it up to let it cure. Last step of the epoxy work. I went ahead and glued my wire into the top part, the end of that main beam. I didn't glue it into the bottom part because we'll need this to move around a little bit. I'm going to have to move it and alter it till I get the shape that I want it once I get this epoxy done. I've already mixed my epoxy up. We're just going to start wrapping this wire in epoxy and getting it all down here in this joint. See if we can't even this back out, make it look like an antler again. Go ahead and mix up some more of that. Going for right now is a general shape. We'll get all this epoxy added in here that we need, and then go back and we'll smooth it and put in a little bit of detail. That's sitting just about perfect according to the reference pictures. So I'm gonna let that sit and cure on out before I try to do any more detail work or anything to it. Once it sets, I'm gonna come back and put some of the lines and details into the epoxy, and we'll just let it cure on out. If we have to sand any edges once it's done, we'll take care of that. It's been sitting out for a few hours and it's still just a little bit flexible. We're gonna go ahead and add in our details here before it hardens up so much that we can't add the lines. After you use this epoxy sculpt for a while, you'll start to notice that there's a certain point in time in that drying stage where you can add in your detail work, and it holds it in there just perfectly. It's not sticky anymore. It starts to get a little bit of a dry feel to it. And you can just make all your details in there just like you like it. Guys, that's gonna get the epoxy work finished. Looks really good. It's gonna match up real good once I get it painted. All right, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put a link down in the description of another video that I've got where I show how to paint repaired deer antlers. And if y'all need to know how to do that, y'all can go over there and check that out. Also, I've got a Cedar Ridge Chronicles Facebook page. If y'all go on there and like that and follow that, if y'all have got any repair work that y'all do, send me pictures on that Facebook page, and I'll check that out. I mean, if you have to, just go ahead and take one of your mounts you got on the wall and just take a 3-pound hammer to it and then repair all of it and just send that to me. And we can just see how good you are. But anyway, guys, appreciate y'all watching. We'll see y'all in the next video.